We're the travel agents coming to you with tips, tricks, interviews, and voyages by cruise. The travel agents bringing you the latest travel news.
Hey, I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
And we're your hosts for the Travel Agents podcast. William, it's time for Italia.
Yeah, we got a fun one today. We're doing something a little bit different. We're talking about our roots, not just our roots.
Yes.
We have a special guest.
I've found that, like, it started in my teenage years, Will, that, like, I would be talking with my buddies, and all of a sudden, I remember my buddy Pat, him being like, I'm Irish. I'm like, what? No, dude, you're born here in Akron. Like, what the heck are you talking about? You know? And then other buddies saying they're Italian, they're Scottish, they're whatever, right? And around that same time, I kind of started getting interested in my roots. I'm like, Dad, what are we? You know? And actually, just like probably 10 years ago, us kids, we got the 23andMe ancestry test for my folks. Yeah. Because we figured, well, if we're their kids, we can just take whatever their results are, right?
Yeah.
And that was fascinating, right? So this whole idea of roots, I think, is really prevalent.
I think it's a really cool concept to really, look back at where you came from, where your ancestors came from, and get in touch with that. Yeah. Because I think that's lost in America, heritage.
Absolutely. I have been itching to talk about Italy since we started this podcast, and I've been looking for the right angle for it. And I think we found the perfect time to talk about Italy.
Yeah, that's a great intro.
I have a friend. Met him at a Bible study. He's Italian. Right away we clicked. And I was like, man, if we ever do Italy, I want to kick it off with getting him on our podcast, Will. His name is Nick Finelli. He's here with us today. And I want to just tell you a little bit about Nick, because he is, yes, maybe he was born in Ohio, but Nick is a true Italian. Nick's wife is 9 months pregnant with their new baby. His wife could go into labor at any moment. But Nick is choosing to push back the birth of his daughter tonight even further than he greased back his hair. Nick is a true Italian. Nick plays soccer. Of course he does, right? His character on the field is much like the Italian drink he brought Will and I tonight, wine. Nick whines in soccer so much, his relationship to referees is much like his favorite band growing up, Yellow Card. Nick is a true Italian. Unlike the capital of Italy, you'll never find Nick roaming around Olive Garden. Nick is a true Italian. His tax reporting is much like his Nana's pasta sauce recipe, secret. And lastly, Nick makes fun of me for being Romanian. But Nick, while you're making hard-earned cash at your family business, I'll be right behind you, stealing it from your pockets. Thank you very much, everyone. That completes my set. Nick, welcome to the podcast.
I'm speechless. That was a fantastic intro. I will say one thing that you missed to prove how Italian I am.
Please.
I showed up a half an hour late to this podcast.
With the hand gestures.
With the hand gestures.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Nick, when I started at Kima Travel, our family travel agency, I had no idea about Italy. I've had the absolute pleasure of visiting Italy 3 times in the past decade, and I must say it's truly an unreal country. Everything from the food, the drinks, the wine, the people, the culture, the gorgeous scenery, the agriculture. It's out of this world good. I'm just curious, going back to roots, can you start us off a little bit about you and just was being Italian always something you knew growing up? Was it ingrained into you, or did you get interested in it later? What was that like?
Yeah, great question. So like you said, I was born in Ohio, but I am Italian. I am the second generation of my family to be born in Italy. So my roots to Italy are very, very close. I would say when I was a child, I was so interested in all the things that we did as Italians. All the traditions we did, the holidays, the get-togethers, the special recipes, which are all secret.
Yeah.
I would say once I became an adult, once entered into manhood, is when I really started questioning, why do we do the things that we do? And where did we come from? I mean, yeah, I know that we're Italian, sure, but what does that mean exactly? One thing I love about Italians and the Italian culture is that if Italy produced nothing, no great people, no great food, no great culture, Italians would still think being Italian is the best thing on earth. So I started to trace my roots very elementary, just asking people. Started off with my parents. What were your parents like? You know, I knew my grandparents, but what were they like growing up? And then that went on to cousins. No, not cousins my age. My dad's cousins, my mom's cousins, people in their 70s.
Yeah, that extended family.
Asking them, what was your dad like? Do you remember your grandmother? What about your great-grandmother? Right. So once I became an adult is when I really started diving into my roots. And around that same time is when I met my now wife. Okay. And found out that she was Italian. In fact, we met at the same Bible study Brian and I met at. Wow. And my little sister came up to me and goes, Nick, I met this girl tonight. She's Italian. You got to talk to her. Okay. That's all she said.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, let's try
Had you at Italian?
What's that?
She had you at Italian.
She had me at Italian. I was like, forget about it. Done. So we found out that our grandparents' hometown, her grandparents' hometown and my grandparents' hometown, was an hour and a half away from each other. Yeah.
Italy's huge. It really is.
It is. But we stopped asking questions after that because we don't want to know.
Yeah.
That we're related. So we're like, cut it. I'm like, all right, that's enough on the roots.
Yeah.
So long story short, I met her when I was starting to dig into where my family really came from. We ended up scheduling a trip with some friends to go to Italy, to go to her grandpa's hometown. She still has family over there. And then we also took a trip to my grandparents' hometown.
What year was this? Like, about what year?
That was 2017, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pretty recently. Do you remember, like, can you recall what the name of the town is?
Yes.
And how much Italian are you studying leading up to this? Are you thinking I better speak some because I'm going to these towns where are you not sure how the English is going to be spoken?
Yeah, I would say I would do some Duolingo type, very, very elementary, nothing great. And it was definitely not sufficient. To answer your question, Will, her grandparents' hometown is called Forlì del Sannio. Mm-hmm. My grandpa's hometown is called Roseto Val Faltore.
Okay.
The Rose of the Valleys. And it's in southeastern Italy.
Nice.
Beautiful part of the country. Okay. Very country, lots of farms.
Yeah. Okay.
Small towns.
So southern Italy. In reference point, like what's maybe the closest major city that maybe someone might know?
Isernia is a close city.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's somebody one might know.
That's a good point. Probably Campobasso. That is
someone might know.
You're right. Rome? Is that one of those?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay.
No, but it's that area south of Rome and south of Amalfi Coast, south of Naples, right? Where it's kind of like a lot of residential. It's even south of Salerno. Is it somewhere in here?
Yeah, if you took Naples and went straight across.
Oh, is it in Puglia?
It's near Puglia. My grandpa's hometown is in near Puglia.
Okay.
It's in Puglia.
Sure. Which is getting more popular as people have already done their Venice, Florence, Rome. They've already done their Milan. They've already done the Dolomites. They've already done Cinque Terre. They're like, hey, let's try something new. We've already tried Sicily. Let's go over to Puglia. Mm-hmm. Love it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an underrated. So I always say that there's two kinds of Italy. There's two Italys. There's the Rome, Florence, North.
The classics.
The classics, right? You have to go. You have to see it.
Yeah.
But then there's the Forlì del Sannos, the Rosetos, the Isernias that no one knows about in Puglia that are getting a lot more popular. And for good reason, too. Mm-hmm. They're great spots to go to. You know, the South is interesting because southern Italy, including Sicily, really missed out on the Industrial Revolution. Mm. Okay? There's not big cities down there in the South.
Yeah,
there's
really not.
There's not great highways. There's not a ton of industry. So it was paused for about 100 years. Hmm. The benefit to that is it's unlike anything that exists anywhere else.
That's right.
It's like a time capsule. It's like you're stepping back in time. Yeah,
exactly.
It's
if you compare it to Rome, you go to Rome and you see a boulder in the middle of the street, and they might tell you, a tour guide might tell you where this boulder is. There was a beautiful temple. It was all marble and it was gorgeous, and I can appreciate that. When I went to my grandpa's hometown, the house that he was in looked the exact same when I saw it as probably when he was born.
Yeah.
Wow.
Love that stuff.
That's really cool.
Love that stuff.
That's super cool. Wow.
Now, did you feel they were accepting you as a tourist? Or I suppose you're not a typical tourist. You got the last name, the Italian last name. You got the Italian look a little bit. You even coming to them with a little bit of Italian. I'm sure that goes a far way just to be able to speak a little bit of their language. And, you even got the hand gestures and all.
Got to do the hand gesture. There's a word for that. Do you know what it is?
No.
Gesticulation. Speaking with your hands.
Interesting.
Yeah, fun fact for you.
There you go. Hey, if you learn anything from our podcast, take that,
I'm glad I can provide some value.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that they were very accepting. If you learn any Italian, Italians will love that, especially if it's polite Italian.
Yeah.
Your pleases, your thank yous, et cetera, et cetera. So they were very accepting. They knew that we were family, and that's really all they needed to know.
There you go.
So
I'd say with Italy, it's one of those things where there's so much hype around it, but it actually lives up to the hype. That's probably the biggest thing I could say about Italy. It's one of those rare exceptions where it meets the hype.
Will, you're such a food critic. I've had the pleasure and privilege of eating your cooking so many times. Thank you, by the way, in case I haven't thanked you enough. You cook amazing. You went to Italy. You had high standards. You had set the bar high for Italy. This food better be good, and you were ready to be a critic. You got to just visit Italy for your first time a few weeks ago. What were your thoughts on the food?
The food was incredible. I mean, it was one of those situations where it was like every meal that you had was. It just blew my mind. I mean, I had a tomato salad, and it was the best tomato salad I've ever had. I'm like, what? I don't even like raw tomatoes.
Yeah.
What is this? What cocaine did they put on here?
Secret recipe.
Secret recipe. I mean, it's so
recipe,
good.
secret.
Yeah.
Don't even ask. You're not going to get it.
So tracing your roots back to Italy, how did you get started on that? Did you have to sort of map out how you're going to get to each location? Did you have to reach out to, I guess, family members and say, hey, I'm going to...
Yeah, so how I started was first gathering the info from my family. Now, I knew where my grandfather came from, and I work we have a family business, Finelli Ironworks, okay? And my great-grandfather was a blacksmith, and he shoed the horses, fixed the farm equipment in his hometown of Roseto. His son, my grandfather, immigrated to America and started Finelli. So I grew up working at Finelli, sweeping the floors, taking out the garbage, things like that. So I was somewhat familiar with my grandpa's hometown. I didn't really pay attention, but I remember him speaking about it. And he had passed away. So the mapping out and the planning was, like I said, pretty elementary, but just talking to relatives. When my grandfather, when he passed away, and he had an incredible story, a very rich story of how he came over to America. But when he passed away, that kind of struck me as one generation is dying off. All of his stories are going with him. All of his memories are going with him. And I think that was what lit the fire of.
Let's do a quick pause and say, those of you with grandparents, go to them this weekend and say, please, tell me stories. Tell me about your youth.
Yes.
Tell me about your grandparents. Imagine asking your grandparents about their grandparents, right?
Mm-hmm.
So good things to you think, well, what's the importance of it? It's rich. It's gold.
It's so rich. And no one thinks about asking their grandparents that until it's too late.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I wish I could ask my grandpa stuff about, what it was like being in World War II. What was it like on my grandma's side being in America during World War II and post World War II, those kind of things. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, did you get a chance while you were over in Italy to kind of glean some of those stories from some of your relatives, some of those good stories?
Yes, I did. However, it was tough with the translation.
Sure. Yeah.
My wife's cousins did some translating, but they had very broken English. I had a very limited understanding of Italian at the time. I did gather some stories. One of the relatives there. So when we went to my grandpa's hometown, I wasn't anticipating meeting anyone because according to all my relatives in America, we had no more relatives in Roseto. And we could only trace our roots back to my great-grandfather, Francesco. And the reason why it only goes that far back is because...
Mafia. I get it.
I mean, I didn't want to say it. It's the elephant in the room, but thank you for bringing that up.
Good.
But so in southern Italy, there are so many towns that are on strategic locations, like up on a hill or backed up to a mountain. And because the real estate was so valuable there, when tombs would fill up, they would get rid of the bones and the tombs. So we could only trace our ancestry back to my great-grandfather, Francesco. But when we went over to my grandfather's hometown in Roseto, I found his house. I had looked up the address beforehand, got the address from some relatives. And when I went there, it said A. Finelli on the door.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm like, well,
Were you shaking?
I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Everyone said we don't have any relatives here.
Yeah.
So, I did the logical thing, knocked on the door.
Yeah.
And
So they did not know you were coming.
They had no idea.
Yeah, this is totally.
I don't have any social media, so I didn't reach out to anyone.
No.
Yeah.
Even if I did, the relative there was
Love it.
Aunt Lucy. She was probably 90 at the time.
Sure. Yeah.
So knocked on the door and she answered, and I just told her, "Sono Finelli. I'm Finelli."
Wow.
And that kind of was somewhat of the extent of my Italian.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my wife's cousins did a little bit of translating. We walked down to the piazza, had an Aperol Spritz, which was the first time I ever had an Aperol Spritz.
Delish.
Oh, fantastic.
So
You had one?
tasty.
Dude, yes.
Of course.
So quick tip.
Please.
The way I gauge the prices of restaurants over in Italy is the Aperol Spritz price.
Oh.
All I look at is the price of the Aperol.
So let's say it's 12 euros.
Get out of here. I ain't going there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's say it's 8 euros.
If there's nothing else. But if we're talking 5 euros, I'm like, okay, that'll be a quick lunch.
Yeah.
Probably pretty decent. But
So what's going
More
in your
than-
mind when you see a 12 euro Aperol Spritz?
I'm probably not dressed accordingly.
Okay.
Right on.
Probably need a reservation.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a hard and fast rule, but
You doing it for lunch
it's a
and
quick.
lunch
good
and
gauge.
dinner, or is this just a lunch drink in your mind? Aperol Spritz,
Oh,
lunch or dinner?
In my opinion, lunch or early dinner.
It's refreshing.
It's so
Very.
refreshing.
Maybe
Oh my gosh.
maybe even right before dinner.
Definitely.
Oh.
Good appetizer.
Little Could you?
Aperol app.
Yeah. Do you have a translation for the word aperitivo, or does it not really translate?
It doesn't really translate to my knowledge,
Yeah.
but
Aperitif. I'm sorry. Aperitif. Aperitivo.
no, aperitivo is
Okay.
Aperitivo. Just like a digestivo. Have you heard of that?
Yes, like
It's
just
after
a
the
little. Okay, like a little bit of like that, like a sherbet or something.
Pudding
they
or
give you.
something.
Yeah, a little pudding or something.
Mousse bouge is what I.
Ah, yeah.
the
Moose
term.
Booth.
I don't think it's Italian, but
The
I use
front.
that one. The
Yep.
French.
I think aperitivo might be like almost like hors d'oeuvres or something.
Say
Yeah.
that again.
Like hors d'oeuvres.
Oh yeah,
That'd
it's
be like
definitely
a
a
good-
pre-meal.
Like it's
an
almost like appetizer.
yeah, it's something to.
Really, what it is, but it doesn't translate to that.
Does it really? That's I just assumed that it did. It just
That's
looks
how
like
I.
it.
That's
Yeah.
how I understood
We'll
it.
just
Okay.
call it. Yeah,
Something to
That's
tell your
a-
body, hey, we're getting ready to eat.
we're about to eat.
Yeah.
That's a really good tip. I mean, how to gauge like what a restaurant is going to be like just by one item on the menu.
Because you know when
for
you
sure.
walk in and you sit down,
Yeah.
you're starving, and you see the
My gosh.
prices, you're like, oh no. But I mean, if it's a $12 Aperol
Yeah.
Spritz,
Yeah.
you're going to eat some good food.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Now, Nick, here's something interesting. A lot of our clients are going to Venice, Florence, Rome, Amalfi Coast. There's nothing wrong with that trip. I think we can all agree it's an amazing trip.
Yeah, I
Yes.
got to do it.
Okay. Yeah, everyone has to do it. Now, in these cities, when you sit down and eat a meal, they actually expect you to tip 10% because they know you're a tourist in their city, and this is a city. And even the tour guides and will say, yeah, no offense, you're not Italian, you are a tourist, you're in Rome, you're in Venice, they expect you to tip 10%. No more, but 10%. They do.
Wow.
The moment you get outside of that, you start getting these hometowns. I'll bet your family and is it Roseto Valfatore? Was that it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll bet they're not tipping.
No.
They might round up a couple euros, maybe a couple bucks.
Not even not tipping. We had one guy, we showed up to a restaurant half an hour after close.
Got it.
The guy let us in and made a pizza for us.
Incredible.
Oh, man.
We tipped then, but otherwise,
That's
not much tipping.
But how big was your hometown? Or, sorry.
It's small, very small. If I had to guess population, maybe a couple thousand people.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's geographically small, and the population is also small.
Were there hotels? Were there B&Bs? Were there Airbnb? Do you have any idea? Remember
that's a good question. I did not look one up. I'd be hard-pressed if there wasn't one.
Yeah.
But when we went there, anytime we go to Italy, we stay with my wife's family because it's free and
of course.
It's a fantastic time.
Yeah.
Love it.
And why not?
Yeah.
So we didn't
Wine and not.
Wine and not. Clever. So we didn't stay in Roseto. We probably could have if we wanted to, but we stayed in Forlì.
Sure.
Paint a picture for me. What does it look like? Is it a seaside town? Is it farmlands? Is it?
It's farmlands, but if you look at the town, your first thought would be, how in the world did someone put a town right there? I mean, it is on the side of I want to say mountain. It's not technically a mountain, but it is a large hill.
Oh.
Beautiful views everywhere.
So Brian's pulling up some pictures. And
so right there, that's the piazza right there.
Piazza means, it's a good word. This means like square.
It means square.
Every city's got them. Piazza della Repubblica in Florence, or Piazza San Marco in Venice.
Exactly.
Sí.
So right here is a sheer drop all the way around the city.
wow.
I mean, it is built on a cliff, and that is not an exaggeration.
Yeah, it's similar site location as to like maybe a Siena or a San Gimignano.
Yeah, cool little medieval town from the...
Yeah, so if you look up pictures of Siena, because I think that'll be easier to find, kind of paint a good picture of what Nick's hometown looks like.
The Italians were obsessed with defense. If you think of even Little Italy in Cleveland, I don't know if you guys have been, but it butts up to Lakeview Cemetery, which is also
gorgeous cemetery.
Cliff.
Yeah,
Yes,
incredible
very
cemetery.
Gorgeous, highly recommended.
which is so weird to say.
No, like if you come to Cleveland, a great tourist thing to do.
Yeah, it's
Go
gorgeous.
to Lakeview, drive through it. Even us locals.
Lots of famous people
Love it.
buried. The Rockefellers are buried there.
Garfield's
buried
He was a
there.
president.
He was president. They have the Hazard Angel. Very, very cool things to see there. They also have Daffodil Hill. Have you heard of this? In the springtime, in Lakeview Cemetery in Cleveland,
No way.
it's a whole hillside just peppered with daffodils, and when they bloom, it is like a sea of yellow. I mean, there's lines of cars.
Nick, that's so cool to hear, because Will and I went once in October.
Yeah.
And it could not have been a better day for the tree color changing.
Yeah.
Every tree was orange, bright orange, and it was gorgeous. Beautiful.
Yeah. But when you enter the cemetery, there are these, would you call them fences? I picture them like walls. Am I thinking of something different?
It's both. There are some concrete walls, and there are some.
Did Finelli do the iron?
Hey.
Yes. No, we didn't. I wish we did.
It's a good account.
That was there long before Finelli.
So the
works
Italians, you're saying,
so
are
they're
obsessed with that.
defense. So Little Italy is butted up to what is now Lakeview Cemetery, because it's one side that they don't have to worry about. Always butted up to a hill. I mean, if you look at the coastal towns in Italy and even in the valleys and in the mountainous regions, all the towns are set up for defense. I don't know why.
That makes sense.
So
sure.
True. Yeah. I saw those towns in every little town I visited in, where was I? What's it? Orvieto is in Umbria.
Umbria.
Yeah. Just got to go to Umbria a couple months ago. Oh my goodness. Really cool medieval towns. Every
similar
single one
experience
of them. It looks just like this that you're showing me. It looks like that. I love it.
And what's sad is those are the towns that all of the young people are leaving. Those are the towns that are dropping in population.
Like Akron, Ohio. God. I'll go to Columbus.
I've seen
Detroit. I hate it.
I mean, I've seen, and granted, this is like, I think the last time I saw this was probably height of COVID, but Italy and Sicily having offers where you could come in, buy a house for like, I mean, so cheap. I think like hundreds of dollars to buy a house because they want to repopulate these towns.
Yes.
Are these the kind of the towns that we're
Those
kind
are
of
the
talking
towns.
about?
And so what they do
Wow.
with those too, Will, is, you've probably seen it advertised even as low as €1.
Yeah.
There's many stipulations, like you have to use local materials, you have to use local trades, you have to use, whatever the building codes
Yeah.
are. It's got to
boost that economy.
boost the economy. Exactly. So that is why they are running that promotion, which, I mean, if you can swing it, I mean,
Swing that euro. I thought about it.
if you could fit it into the budget.
I want to go back to the language. You're going to some areas where I just don't think there's a lot of opportunity for the locals to learn English. And you're saying all the young people, which Will and I have discussed in previous podcasts. If you travel to a foreign country and you're struggling with the language and you need someone to help you, I hate to say it, but no, I don't hate to say it. It's just truth. Look for that person who looks like they might be under 30 years old. And there's a good chance they have a better grasp of English just because they probably learned it in school. So if we're talking about these really cool kind of ancient towns and parts of Italy that aren't so touristy, you really need to have a little bit of Spanish. Now, I'm sorry, Italian.
Or Spanish. They would probably
Spanish can
understand.
get you
They might understand
halfway
Spanish better
almost.
than Italian.
Yeah.
It's actually the connection I wanted to make because Italian is one of the 5 Romance languages. So just a quick recap, the 5 Romance languages are Italian, Romanian, Spanish, French, and Portuguese.
And Russian. No.
So if you can go back to your high school Spanish, your high school, I don't know, French, or if you took Portuguese, I'm sure no one took Romanian, but hey, if you can go back to it, you will be shocked that some of those words work out. I want to do just a quick little language thing. We'll keep this quick.
Sure.
Nick, I'll say a word in Romanian. You say it in Italian, okay? I'm going to start with bread, and I'm going to say pane.
Pane.
Great. And I'm going to say milk, which is latte.
Latte.
Amazing. Now I'm going to say fish, which is pesce.
Pesce.
So this is going to be very helpful.
Beautiful.
If you do, because if you start saying words like fish and they don't speak a word of English, but they might get pesce, right? Or
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to interject real quick because I have a funny story about pesce. So Brian and I, we were in Sicily, and I don't know Italian. I know a little bit of Spanish. And I was trying to order fish. And on the menu, it's spelled the same way as how you would say it in Spanish. So I said pesque, which I think is the Spanish, some variation of that. Well, whatever I said meant bitch in Italian.
Oh, yeah.
And it needs to be pesce. So there is a very clear distinction.
Be careful. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
So don't order the fish.
Yeah, don't order the fish. Yeah, so I called this woman a bitch to her face.
Yeah.
And she's just like, okay.
She
You mean
doesn't spit
fish.
in your food.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Will, just to complement what you're saying, I'm noticing, we're going to these restaurants, Will, and we're not speaking Italian.
Yeah.
And we're trying to order this delicious food, some of the best food we've ever had in our life, right? We want to get it right. We want to get the order right. Now, they're kind enough that they have a menu that's in Italian and English for us, so we appreciate that. But what I found you and I were doing, and I remember one specific situation was, we were a little too conversational with the server. We think we're maybe going to get something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our English was going over her head.
Yeah.
And we thought we ordered a steak, and she had no recollection of it, right?
Yeah.
Which is a pretty big deal when you think you ordered steak and there's no steak for you.
Yeah.
So I think we learned the hard way, Will. I know it might sound like we're being rude, but just because of that barrier with the language, it would actually be better if we said, I would like 1 steak and 1 pasta.
Yeah.
And 2 tiramisus. Right? It sounds almost a little rude to the English ear. Like, wait, no, you should add some more words to make it softer. It's like, no, actually, a little more directness would actually probably
A little more
better.
to the point.
Yeah.
The important words.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 1
Tiramisu.
steak. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, Nick, what else I'm curious. Anything else more about this, tracing your roots, any more thoughts or more stories or anything you got?
Yeah, so some interesting things. I found out a lot just talking to my relatives.
Yeah.
One thing that's so interesting about Italy from top to toe, there are so many different regions and specifically dialects. So everyone in the country speaks Italian, but everyone also speaks the dialect of the specific region that they're from.
Love it.
For example, Sicilian is a dialect.
Right.
So my grandfather, Papi, and my grandmother, his wife, Nana, who was from Sicily, if they spoke dialetto to each other,
See?
you can't understand it.
Huh.
They cannot understand each other.
Wow.
That's how different the dialects are, specifically for Sicily, because so many nations have conquered it,
Uh-huh.
and it's been controlled by so many different countries
Yeah.
that their dialect is very, very different.
Yeah.
So, one thing fun that I did too was my Nana, who was from Sicily. So after that first trip to trace my Papi's roots, I realized I didn't know any Italian, and if I did, it would have been super helpful.
Sure.
Or if I would have paid attention to Spanish in high school, that would have been helpful too, at least. So we lived in the same town and in Twinsburg, Ohio, and I would go over to her house, her apartment, every single Wednesday for about an hour, not much.
Yeah.
She would serve me an espresso. She always had lemon cookies, and I would just ask her about her roots, about her parents. She was one of 12 siblings.
Wow.
Her mother received a medal from Mussolini because she had so many children, and it was building the republic.
Yeah.
So she received a medal for that. But and then I asked her to teach me Italian, so she taught me a lot of Italian.
I love this.
We ended up cooking together.
Mm-hmm.
So she showed me how to make her pesto. She showed me how to make her pasta con sarde, which is pasta with sardines, which is a very traditional Sicilian dish. Arancini, which I'm sure you guys had when you went to Sicily.
And I had no idea what arancini was. It looks like you're holding in between a baseball and a golf ball in the palm of your hand.
And you're like, how do I eat
fried
this thing?
dough.
What do I do with it?
They're like, just go for it.
Yeah.
In short, it's a very fancy mozzarella ball, but what it really is risotto, which is a delicious dish by itself. But they take the risotto, they take mozzarella, and they stuff the risotto, or I guess they kind of take the ball of mozzarella and wrap the risotto around it. And then they fry that sucker.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can get creative with what you put in there. You can put mozzarella cheese.
You can get salmon inside it.
Anything you want.
Yeah.
Anything you want.
Nick, when you go to a restaurant in Italy, what are you looking for with your order? What's going through your mind? What are you asking the server? What's going on?
First thing I always get when I go to Italy is a margarita pizza. First time every time.
This is because this is like, you know what it should taste like.
I know what it should taste like. It's a staple. It's so simple, and I know it's going to be delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, too, they have DOP. Have you guys heard of this? DOP in Italy. It's a certification. So, for example, San Marzano tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a region where they come from, and you can get a San Marzano from almost anywhere in Italy.
Yeah.
But if it's DOP, it is certified by the country that it came from.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
So there's a lot of times there's margarita pizza and margarita pizza DOP. I always get the DOP, and that's my first dish in Italy every time I go.
Because it's so simple. If it's
so
delicious.
simple.
You know
Well, all the
that they're-
cooking in
they're
Italy,
doing it right.
the beauty of the cuisine in Italy is it is so simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple. It's the best ingredients possible, but simple. Few ingredients, that's it. I mean, I had a dessert one time that was ricotta cheese sprinkled with like a tiny bit of shaved chocolate. Who would have thought cheese and chocolate as a dessert?
Absolute banger.
And it was an absolute banger. It was delicious.
It's like simplified perfection.
Simplified perfection.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
And
incredible.
what they do over there too, and I learned this cooking with my Nana, if French cuisine is a science, I mean, they have strict rules. Everything is down pat, and also really complicated. Like you roast a duck and then stick a snail shell on top of it, and then order like some weird truffle that you can only get.
Yeah.
Italian it's more like jazz, and it's just simple ingredients, just simple good ingredients. So when I was learning how to make pesto with my Nana, I asked her, how much basil do you put in? She goes, what do you mean? This much. I go, yeah, how much is that? She goes, look at it. It's this much.
Yeah.
So they just kind of
feel it.
eyeball. You
Yeah,
just
you
gotta
gotta
feel.
feel
It's
it.
all by taste. So if I wasn't with her, tasting it and doing it with her at the time, no way would I be able to replicate any of her recipes today.
Wow.
Yeah. Mhm.
Will, you're going to be jealous. I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, Nick sent me home with just this jar of red sauce. He's like, you're welcome. And I was like, what on earth am I holding? You know, I think I should say thank you, but I don't know. Yeah, exactly. He's like, me and my Nana, thank you. We made this with you in mind. So just add it to whatever you want. It's going to blow your mind. So I picked up some, I don't know, probably some cheap pasta at the grocery store, cooked it up. I added it to it. It blew my mind. It was so good. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you this, Nick. But there was about half left. I just heated it up and ate it by the spoonful.
Nice.
So freaking good.
I
It was
would
just
be
like,
disgusted if I didn't do the same.
yeah.
I mean, I spoon that stuff.
Wow.
Now, another thing that's interesting is that, so, Will, you talked about the tomatoes being fantastic. I don't even like tomatoes. And I mean, in America, we have a tomato, right? And you can put that tomato on, whatever you want.
Sure.
In Italy, they have a tomato for sauce. They have a different tomato that you eat raw.
Mhm.
They have a different tomato that you eat with cheese.
Yeah.
They have a different tomato that you eat with salad.
Mhm.
So it's simple, but just the best ingredients possible.
Yeah. You say tomato, I say 4 different ways.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome, bro.
Another thing I found that was interesting, there's kind of the cliche or what's the word I'm looking for?
Stereotype, which is so true for Italians.
So
always,
true.
right?
Every single one. Exactly.
Quick side note. I was like, you know what? When I get to Italy, they're not actually going to say Mamma Mia. That's just a stereotype. It's untrue. And oh my gosh, I was so pleasantly wrong. I mean, in the same sense, we're like, oh my gosh, right? They're saying, oh, Mamma Mia. I mean, it was like every other sentence, and I ate it up. I was like, you guys, are you just saying this because I'm a tourist and I want to hear it? They're like, no, if you weren't here, we'd be saying it. I'm
That's
like,
fun.
yes!
Yeah, that's good. I like that. So Italians are that there's a stereotype that they all garden, which is so true. Every Italian gardens, especially the ones in Italy.
Right.
Well, I learned from my Uncle Joe, who's now, gosh, he's in his late 70s now, but back in the day, Italians were taxed on all of the food that they produced in their backyard garden.
Wow.
Yeah. So they got really, really good at growing as much as possible so that they didn't have to pay the tax on their own food that they grew in their own garden.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is this like going back to like Mussolini days or even later than that?
Even earlier than that.
Wow.
Even earlier than that.
Wow.
Because Italy
Okay.
was not a united country until maybe like the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but it was there were a lot of different
A lot of kingdoms.
Lots.
A lot of kingdoms.
Many.
So many kingdoms.
So many.
It's really hard to like, I mean, after the fall of Rome, it's like, all right, just pick a different civilization and then kind of save 50 years. And that's Italy.
Yeah, exactly. Which reflects in the architecture to an extent, which is beautiful.
Beautiful architecture.
I mean, there are some, I've heard it said that Sicily has better Greek ruins than Greece.
Okay. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, which
Right?
is so interesting. And you
Mhm.
wouldn't think that, but when you go there, there are so many Greek ruins there
Yeah.
that are still really intact.
Mhm.
There's Nordic castles down there, and kind of a sad story that they were conquered so much, but a beautiful result.
Yeah.
in some way.
I feel like, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, if you can remember this, but I feel like when we were in Sicily, someone, maybe one of our guides, or maybe when we went to Mount Etna, our guide there had said something that Sicily was one of, if not the most conquered piece of land
Right.
in history.
It's crazy. Wow.
Yeah. So many different cultures from, the Greeks, the Bourbons, the Ottomans,
Nordics. Spanish,
yeah.
even Africa.
Yeah. Insane. Like it's
But when
and
you
you
go
see all
there-
that.
You see all that, and when you go there, you realize how rich the island is in resources.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense. I mean, it's the biggest island in the Mediterranean, the soccer ball of the boot, if you will.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
Never heard that. I like
Never?
it.
Because Italy's shaped like a boot.
I love it. Quick little break just to talk about tourism in Italy. Okay, so right off the bat, population in Italy as of 2022, about 59 million people living there. But guys, check this out. 2023 year-end estimate 68 million visitors.
Wow.
And I heard the Department of Tourism in Italy is talking about this. Like, okay, hang on. Do we have almost an ethical stopping point where we need to say, okay, guys, don't get us wrong
anymore.
We love the visitors, but at some point, right?
At some point, you hit full capacity.
When the flights are full, the hotels are full, the trains are full, the tour guides are full. The streets are full. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's great for the economy, I'm sure, but at what point do you kind of need to stop? But Italy holds so many of the ancient wonders of our world.
Yeah.
And I don't blame anyone for wanting to go see it.
Also,
remember what I told you, or this trip to Italy, Will? I said, I think I have to come here every year.
Yeah.
Just somewhere in Italy.
Yeah.
I think I have to.
From our business perspective, it's our number one seller by like a lot. It's like number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
It's it's insane.
But we do a lot of Cancun and Caribbean, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But, okay, put that aside, Italy. Mm-hmm. To the point where, Will, you once came in my office and you were like, Brian, do we only get Italy requests?
Yeah, it's like
we got to study
so
up on
many.
this country.
Yeah,
that's such a funny thing. When I started as a travel agent, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know anything about Italy. I'm like, Italy, what, Rome? I don't know. What's there? And I started getting Italy request after Italy request. I was like, the homeschooling, I need to go. What's that?
I said it's because you're homeschooled.
Well, there's a lot of issues I have because of that. This is just one of them. I
so
got to go to Italy.
About Brian's issues.
Childhood wounds? No, I love my childhood. Shout out to my mom and dad. Mother's Day coming up. Thanks, Mom. I got to go to Italy the first time. I was like, I get it. I kind of get it. This city's incredible. This country's incredible. I'd like to come back. I went to Italy a second time. I went to Italy now a third time. Mm-hmm. And now I can't wait to go back.
It really has something for everyone. It's got mountains and skiing in the north.
Yes, it's got
modern, history. It has modern cities. It's got coast, oceans,
artists,
art. It has
leather,
valleys,
cooking classes.
Probably one of the most important
vineyards.
cuisines, like what, French, Mediterranean, and Italian. I mean, Chinese.
Italian first, obviously, but then
I mean, there's like in the top 5, the Mount Rushmore is of food. Italian is George Washington.
And I have cool news for those who are foodies, and particularly about eating clean. Organic farming there's a huge push in organic farming recently. You may have some European friends who are talking about, oh no, Europe is falling to the way of America with more pesticides and chemicals. But I'm like proud to say, in my most recent trip to Umbria, there has been a push from Ministry of Tourism, and I think it stems from just keeping the business in the family and those stories.
And keeping the cultural heritage.
The traditions, the cultural heritage. Well, I could not agree more.
Yeah.
Of like, Nick, in the same sense that you and your brothers are faithfully taking over your family business, there's those core values that your father and grandfather put into place. Look at me talking with my hands like I'm an Italian.
That wine is getting to you.
Yeah.
Is your hair curling?
Can we turn on soccer?
Yeah. Hey, there we go.
Will, you're going to have to give us a quick little Italian soccer, just a quick little quip about Italian soccer in just a second. So I'm prepping.
Yeah.
Because we can't talk about Italy without at least mentioning soccer, okay? So
absolutely.
You're on deck, okay?
Yeah.
But that family tradition, which I love coming from a family business, and I love talking to you, Nick, about your family business. And you mentioned to me recently about family pillars or company pillars and foundational stones for your family business. And I thought, man, I want to do that with my family business. What are our values? What are our heritage stones that we can kind of build on and make sure that whoever this gets passed down to, whether family or not, they're going to keep it running. And I think it's so encouraging when you go to Italy and you find out this vineyard, this organic farm has been in the family for 4, 5, 6, 7 generations, and they are doing their due diligence to keep it pure, keep it clean. So I have story after story of people who they drink wine here in Ohio and the sulfates get to them, or they're eating bread and their face breaks out with acne like me in 2017. And then I go to Italy in 2013, I'm sorry. I start eating organic bread and my face is fine. And I'm like, what the heck is happening? My buddy Steve, who's been on this podcast, and I'm like, Steve, I'm not breaking out. He's like, this is called organic eating.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff is so exciting. I get actually excited about this subject that I'm not normally excited about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I share a quick story? One of my, well, first of all, about the family business and your ancestors. It's so important to do that because the business is made in the image of its founder. And to continue that business, you need to carry on that vision. So I completely agree and support what you're saying. Now, about the food and your experience with eating organic and the push for organic and no pesticides, no herbicides, et cetera, et cetera. One of my colleagues that I work with, she is an ex-executive chef from America, specialized in Italian food. She went to Italy for the first time last year. Now, she is celiac, gluten-free, dairy-free.
Yeah.
She can't have any of that stuff. And she came back, and when I got the chance to talk to her, I asked her, how was it over there? She goes, Nick, I ate as much cheese as I wanted to.
I love it.
As much dairy as I wanted to.
Amen.
And as much gluten. I had bread, pastas, and I was fine. I had no issues whatsoever.
Do you know why that is? Like,
partly. So when you're making pasta, and quick, a little bit of history.
Yeah.
Way back in the day, we're talking centuries ago, organic flour would go rancid very, very quickly, and it would invite a lot of vermin. So you had rats, mice, moles, etc. So the Italians figured out that the best way to preserve the raw flour was to bake noodles and then dry the noodles. And it's the slow fabrication of the noodle that lets the gluten build properly. See, when you mass produce pasta and you dry it quickly, you're basically rushing nature. It doesn't come out correctly. If you talk to small pasta makers in Italy, a small pasta maker might make in a year as much as a big pasta maker makes in a week. So the process is slow. I mean, starting with great ingredients, obviously. But the process of letting the pasta dry out, letting the gluten form, and letting it build is huge. And if you're in it for mass production, you don't have the time. It's inefficient to let it dry out long. So you just, flash dry it and then box it and ship it.
Sure.
So that's from my limited understanding. That's partly
I get that because I make pasta myself too. And when you let it take its time and you let the science do its thing, the pasta is incredible. And it is, I'm not saying that I make as good pasta as they do in Italy. I'm not saying that, but you can see the resemblance. You can see like, okay, there is a clear difference. And it all starts in this care and this, because you can go to an Italian restaurant here and I don't think you get the same kind of pasta unless you're going to a very top shelf Italian restaurant.
Yeah. It's like sourdough bread.
Yeah, it's
right?
like
so many
sourdough
people
bread.
who have bread or who are celiac can't have bread, but you have sourdough bread, you can have it partly because it's fermented and partly because to make sourdough bread takes a long time.
Yeah,
we make it at home just because it's delicious. We don't have any issues or anything, but it takes days.
Yeah,
days,
a lot of care,
many hours.
It's like having a pet.
Exactly. It's like having a pet.
We need to talk about soccer and coffee.
Sure.
Also, do you want to do soccer now? Please?
Sure. Yeah, we can talk about soccer.
I have no idea what on earth is Italian soccer.
Neither do the Italians. They don't say soccer.
They say football.
Or they say
from here on out,
soccer.
Oh, that's new. Interesting. Okay. Well, Italy, the football, soccer in Italy is one of the biggest, cultural aspects of the country.
Right.
It's also one of the biggest leagues in Europe, one of the most historic and one of the most respected leagues in Europe. So when you go to Italy, they have what's called a football pyramid. And essentially what this translates to, and this is the same for Spain, England, and things like that. It's really big in Europe. But it'll really help you understand soccer as a cultural phenomenon in the country. The football pyramid essentially allows you, as a town, so let's say you're in Palermo in Sicily, you can have a football club that's in just Palermo, filled with Palermo kids going up in Palermo Football Club Academy, competing all the way from the lowest ring of the pyramid to all the way to the top of the pyramid. So that's like your Farmers League and minor leagues baseball, all of a sudden growing in popularity and growing in talent to a degree that they can compete in the MLB.
I love it.
So what this means in the sport and what it means on like a cultural level is that there's a more of an appreciation for who is wearing the kit, the jersey, the shirt.
Means jersey, yes.
Yeah, for that club. And it also just means more on like a community level. It's like a communal thing almost. Sure. Your town is going against the other town, and it's just this incredible aspect. And
you have a cool thing. I know you're a big fan of FC Barcelona. But would you enjoy an Italian soccer game?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I would enjoy any game. Yeah. But I would almost want to go to like those lower. I mean, when we were in Palermo, I was like, dude, we should go to a Palermo match. And had they not been away, we probably would have. And it would have been an incredible experience. Yeah. Like totally different. It's like, okay, it's the closest similarity. And this might sound cringy to anyone that doesn't understand this. You're not going to get this because you're homeschooled. Nick might get this because he went to an actual school. It's like
this is all fair. I'm no tracking with you. Go ahead.
It's almost like going to a high school football match on Friday night. That's the closest thing I can compare.
Friday Night Lights. I get it.
But your high school team can compete with like the Browns and the Steelers and all that stuff. So that's the disparity. Yeah. Very nice. That's why it's really cool.
I love it. Really neat. That's football. I want to talk about coffee then when I get back to your Italian roots because I have some more questions for you.
Please.
Okay, coffee. Nick, here's my story. I go to Italy. I order a coffee. They pour me this tiny little cup like I'm at my niece's tea party, right? I go to sip it. It tastes like dark sludge because I can barely get it down my throat. I feel like gagging, but I sit there and we don't even sit down, by the way. We just stand at the bar and we just sip
very quick.
And, and when I'm used to coffee, I'm used to sipping on it for 2 hours from 9 to 11 a.m. each morning at my desk. They do it in 2 sips and then they leave.
Yes.
And I learned what I really want is a cafe Americano or, thanks to Will, a cappuccino. Now, I got embarrassed when I ordered, because the cappuccino, when I order it, it's absolutely delicious. Yeah. 11 a.m. I heard. I ordered a cappuccino after 11 a.m. and I got scolded. And they said, the guy, family-owned business, cool guy, really cool guy, but he said, I had a translator with me. He said, listen, when I come to your country, you serve me whatever you want. But at this moment, you're in my hometown, and I can't in good conscience serve you a cappuccino after 11 a.m.
Yeah.
You're going to drink an espresso, and
you're going to
whether you like it or not, I don't care. You're going to drink it. I can't make you a cappuccino.
Is it anything that's not an espresso that you can't have after 11? Like, could you have a cafe macchiato
or an Americano?
An
Americano is just more water added to the espresso, right?
It dilutes basically syrup. It's almost like the closest thing I could compare it to is like a syrup.
Right. And it's funny because they think that they think that American coffee is complete trash.
Oh, I'm sure.
Complete trash.
I
think it's delicious. But I don't know if it's anything except for a cappuccino. Or how did you rephrase that?
Like, I know macchiato is like a nice alternative too for folks.
Sorry to butt in. I heard that milk after 11 a.m. is not good for your digestion. Before 11 a.m. it's kind of that. It's like McDonald's breakfast. Hey, we're not going to serve it after 10:30, right?
It's like the same thing.
So kind of going back. They do have McDonald's in Italy, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere.
But to go back to the aperitivo and digestivo, Italians are obsessed with the gut.
Good. Yeah.
Obsessed with it. So
Yeah.
having milk sitting in your stomach with potentially a steak or pasta, it's just not it's a big no-no over there.
What about, I mean, obviously Parmesan is a key ingredient in a lot of meals.
Yes.
And cheese really as a whole, ricotta. I mean, a lot of folks are going to have tiramisu, cannolis. I mean, cannolis, incredible. But I mean, that's a staple just as much as coffee would be. So is that a hard or fast rule, or is it maybe more directed towards that raw, like milk kind of component?
You're saying, is it a hard and fast rule for the
11 o'clock and like...
Oh, yeah. I found that pretty much everyone, even my Italian teacher, even people in my Italian club, same thing. They're like, no cappuccinos after noon.
Nick is so Italian, he belongs to the local Italian club.
Actually, 3 clubs.
Wow.
It's a fun...
That would be fun.
Going back to the very beginning, like, the Italians think that the Italians are the best because we are. It's just a fun... I mean, we have bocce ball leagues together, whiskey nights, clam bakes. It's for the meetings. All these old Italian women come in. They cook phenomenal food for our meetings. Wow. It's fantastic. It's perpetuating the Italian culture.
Yeah.
It's huge.
That's awesome.
For all Italians.
There's something about Italians, and I mean this in the most loving way possible. I've never heard someone come into a group and be like, I'm Croatian, and be proud of it. It's no offense on Croatia. Here it's a lovely country. But anywhere, right? Like, I'm Scottish, or I'm Danish, or I'm from Kazakhstan. Like, sure, maybe they say it, but wow, the pride of Italians.
Oh. Yeah. I don't think there's not a culture that has.
Yeah. Not seen it.
When I was dating one girl who was not Italian, I introduced her to my Nana. And I said, Nana, this is, I won't use her name, but Nana, this is so-and-so. And not like a hello, nothing like that. She goes, you Italian?
Yeah.
And she goes, no, but I'm Polish and Irish and, whatever else she was. My Nana, she goes, says no words, just waves her hands and goes, eh. Like, it wasn't even worth the spit for her to say anything, just
That is exactly what I would expect.
Yeah. Italian mothers and grandmothers, if you know any, they don't like anybody.
I shout out to your in-laws, though, at your wedding. I should have introduced myself as Brian Kimiani or something, but I said Kima, and I said it's Romanian. But I said Buonasera, which is, good evening, in both Romanian and Italian, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. I speak Romanian now.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they were extremely pleasant to me. And your Nana was super.
They're great people.
Nana was super pleasant to me.
My in-laws are fantastic. I love them. Yeah. They're really great people.
Absolutely.
Wow. There was something about Rome that I feel like we'll probably talk about this in every podcast related to Italy, just as a warning to anyone that's listening to it. Yeah. But 2025 is the year of the Jubilee for the Catholics.
Correct.
And Rome is going to be packed, for lack of a better word.
Disney World.
Yeah, Disney World. To such a degree, it's almost like, hey, unless you're Catholic, maybe reconsider Rome for any other year. 2025 is going to be that packed with Rome. And that expensive.
I heard of the Pope, and this is, some Catholics might cringe, so I apologize. Yeah. But the Pope is going to open a door, and if you're Catholic, you get to walk through the door.
Yeah.
And that door this is only on the year of Jubilee. Mm-hmm. And so this is very special. So the pilgrimage, you may have on a Monday, you may have 14 flights coming from Greece with those people making their pilgrimage. Then the next day you might have 15 flights coming from Hungary making their pilgrimage, and so it's the amount of traffic going to Rome for this. It's going
to be insane.
So like you said, if you're not Catholic, it's a 2025, just save Rome for the next year.
But Italy is one of these countries where you're not going to see all of it in one trip. And it is very much a country that you need to do in pieces, or do the classics and then do it in pieces.
Right.
And if you have every intention of wanting to really explore Italy and go multiple times, this would be a great chance for you to do either northern Italy or do southern Italy, or do just Sicily, or do various parts. We're not saying don't go to Italy in 2025. Just know that in 2025, Rome is going to be very, very, very busy, to a point where, I mean, it's just going to be really packed, and hotels are going to be sold out, things like that. So
that's a great tip. I had no idea, and I'm Italian, so that's a great tip.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to roots, because I love it when clients come in. They sit at my desk. They say, we want to go to Italy. I say, great, where? And they go, we want to go to Milan, Venice, Florence, Rome, and Rocella. And I'm like, okay, one of these is not like the other. What on earth was that last one? And it's always, well, we did the 23andMe or this person's great grandfather and we whatever, and then we traced it back, and then there's heritage there. We just want to see it. I'm like, okay, awesome. Hey, we want to go to Rome, the Amalfi Coast, and Frosinone, or something like that. I said, oh, that's awesome. Great. Why? Well, we just want to go track down our roots. So how cool to have someone here. You had the same passion, the same desire, and I get it. I have full encouragement. Yes, go. Because in 2012, I went to some obscure town in Romania to track down my family roots, town of Chincanoa, which if I ask Romanians today who are from Romania, they're like, oh, I've never heard of it. I'm like, exactly. It's that small of a town, right? You went to a town to track it down. I just want to know, like, when you think back to that, what makes you proud? Was there anything maybe you had wish you had asked or done or said or and lastly, and I don't mean to throw too many questions at you, we can go over them each piece by piece, but if you met someone who also wants to go track down their family, whether it be Italy, whether it be Slovenia, whether it be Morocco, it doesn't matter. What would you encourage them to do beforehand, and how would you encourage them?
A few things I wish I would have done differently.
Yeah.
I wish I would have done more preparation.
Okay.
I wish I knew more Italian the first time I went there to meet my ancestors. I guess I didn't know I was going to meet them, but I think being able to have a basic understanding of the language, basic communication.
Sure.
I really wish I would have done that.
Yeah.
Or at least taken some lessons. Now I take lessons now, but in hindsight, if I would have had more ability to communicate, that would have been a lot different of a trip. And then what were some other things that I would advise to someone who's doing it?
Yeah, so let's say someone wants to go track down their family, and
I would say that's a good point or a good question. I would say that do as much research here as you can, because there's probably so many resources here that you can exhaust before you go there and kind of figure it out. Even if you do the 23andMe or myheritage.com, whatever those are, and let's just say you get an address, before you shoot over there, definitely talk to all of your relatives beforehand.
Sure.
And key tip, write this stuff down, because no one writes it down.
Yeah.
I haven't written it down. So guess what? When I'm a grandparent, I'll be, maybe the only one with the knowledge of my great-great-grandparents. So documenting that information to preserve it for your posterity, they will thank you for it.
Yeah.
They will thank you for it.
Did you bring any gifts?
To your relatives?
To your relatives?
No, I didn't bring any to my relatives because
you didn't know you were going to see them.
I heard that there was none there. And it turns out that there was a strained relationship, and the person who's there, my relatives over here, don't consider that person part of the family anymore.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was very interesting. So I didn't bring a gift to Roseto. When we went to my wife's hometown, I mean, my wife is fantastic. She brought a gift for every single,
wow.
That's another tip. Get married before you go, because your wife will think of all the things that you don't think of.
That's so good.
I don't know how you've done it for so many years.
Yeah. Dude, when it's time for my Romanian Roots podcast episode, you will learn how I screwed up royally.
Yeah. Subscribe.
Good. No, I did.
It was pretty bad.
It's gonna be fun though. But that's why I'm so excited to talk. But I guess one thing I would say, and I think you'd agree with me, so shoot me down if you don't, but trying to communicate with these people in these small towns who maybe maybe they don't even have WhatsApp or email or cell phone. Maybe they don't speak a word of English. Like, there's a chance you can do as much research as you can, but you might hit a ceiling where like you just can't. You actually just have to physically go.
Yeah.
And just kind of show up.
Absolutely.
And that might seem rude.
No.
But just do it.
Yeah. I mean,
because we only have one life to live. Just go.
You are 100%.
You're going to be so grateful, and you're only going to regret not going.
Absolutely. When I met the relative that I wasn't anticipating, she took a couple of hours out of her day just to hang out with us.
Absolutely.
Walked down to the piazza. Like I said, we got some Aperols and some gelato. And she didn't have to do that.
No.
But she did. And it was so funny. When I saw her, I thought to myself, that looks like my cousin Franchino.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. The resemblance was weird. It was it was like, I'm halfway across the world, but this person looks like my cousin.
Yeah.
Because they are in a roundabout way.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I could throw in a quick another tip, don't let your trip be purposeful. Go try to track down family. Absolutely. But also don't plan on staying with them for a week.
Sure.
I tracked down family in Romania, and I stayed with them for 2 nights, which was 3 days. And I was so eager to leave after the 3 days. You have no idea.
Yeah.
And if it had been one more night, I think I would have just tried to like escape.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as cool as it is, just remember you're a guest, be polite, bring gifts. You're going to eat with them. You're going to go over stories. Hopefully that's great. Maybe they even have pictures to show you. That's incredible. But also don't expect that they're going to host you for 7 days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You make me feel guilty because we do that exact thing at my wife's family. But
yeah.
No, I think that advice is spot on. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that is, I think you're speaking a lot of truth, right? A lot of truth there.
Nick, do you have any more things to share about it whatsoever that were
so much. But I'll just say that Italy, if I could do one sales pitch for Italy,
please.
Yeah.
Italy, I don't care who you are or what your tie is to it, but it captures you. Yeah. I mean, you fall in love with the country.
Yeah.
I think that if you're from Italy, you already love the country, but once you go there, it's almost a divine experience. It's something about the country, the rich history, the incredible culture. And if your roots are there, my goodness, you will be captivated by the place.
Yeah.
I mean, like you guys said, it's one of your top sellers for
a very good reason.
Right, for a very good reason. So, yeah. It's interesting. I would say, too, for any of your listeners who are Italian, my wife just got her Italian citizenship, which is a very, very
cool.
Yes, very cool. It's a very, very arduous and expensive process. It's ironic because the population of Italy is decreasing, right? The replacement rate is below what it should be.
Sure.
But they make being a citizen really difficult. Very difficult.
What kind of benefits does having an Italian citizenship grant?
I would say the biggest benefit, the biggest realistic benefit is probably just preserving your heritage.
Okay.
But small things like, easier access to travel over there. I mean, we could have gone there during COVID if we wanted to. When everyone was on lockdown and everyone was shut down, we could have traveled to Italy, no problem. Stayed somewhere very remote. That would have been a viable option.
It's so cool.
It would have been so cool. We may not have came back if we did do that.
Yeah.
Easier travel. You could live there. You could work there. You could buy property there.
Wow.
And the citizenship is interesting. So if you're Italian, how it works is you already have citizenship. Okay, because once you're an Italian, you're always an Italian. But what you have to do is prove your citizenship to the country. So Delana, even myself, they would say I'm an Italian citizen, but unless I can prove my citizenship to the nation,
right,
I won't be recognized as a citizen.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
Gosh, now I want to go back.
I know. We just got back.
One of the great parts about Italy, it's actually a year-round destination.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Which I do want to stress. I mean, there are some touristy areas like Cinque Terre and the Amalfi Coast where if you would go there in January, all right, maybe the restaurant, maybe the hotel is closed for the season for good reason. That's okay. Like Bellagio, Lake Como area.
Yeah.
These fancy hotels close from November
Your
to
seasonal
March.
locations. Yeah.
Exactly. Yet cities like Rome, Florence, Venice,
They never
you can actually, you can go there. The sheer fact that we went to Sicily in February, I mean, that tells you something.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
so comfortable in February.
65 high.
Yeah,
I love
which
that.
was insane because all like the Italians were wearing like winter coats and parkas.
You and I were
and,
pumped.
like, yeah, we were like wearing shorts and short sleeve shirts, and
Yeah.
we are like, how are you guys like not like dying of heat exhaustion?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's tough traveling to Italy in the peak months without being near the water.
Oh yeah, I bet
It's tough. I mean, if you go in August is an interesting time to go because they have their holiday for August. So August is,
Feast of Assumptions, August 15th. Yep.
and so they took the month off. So getting a rental car, tough.
I've had Italian tour guides tell me, Brian, don't send your clients to Italy in August.
Yeah.
Particularly that third week, second and third
Yes.
week.
Yeah.
If it's August 31st, all right. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. We went to Italy in August, my wife and I, for our first trip, and we were going to go on a hike. It was like 11 a.m. And there was like an entrance to the path, and the lady who I guess was manning the path, she's like, "You can't go." And we're like, "Well, is it closed?" She goes, "No, it's too hot." We're like, "Oh, that's
wow.
thank you, but we'll be fine." She goes,
Okay.
"No, you're not going." And good thing we didn't because it's sweltering.
Swelter.
Wow,
July and August, hottest months in Italy. Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, Will, we have broken the cap, the seal on Italy. I've been talking to you for years. Like, I want to do Italy, but I'm
Where do you
almost
start?
intimidated.
where do you start?
And it was like, well, we have to start somewhere. So, Nick, I'm thrilled you got to join us for our first Italian episode. We've broken the seal. I'm ready to do Rome, Florence, Venice, Amalfi Coast, Lake Como, Sicily. It's going to be exciting. We're going to talk about the food we ate, the wine we drank, the driving we did, the tours we've done. I mean, I can't wait to continue Italy with you.
Yeah, we have a lot in store, especially with Italy. We're going to be breaking it down into parts because you can't do this country in one episode.
We didn't want to.
Yeah, we didn't want to. So we're going to be talking about Sicily probably next up and our experience on the island and what that was like. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, I think that's really it. I mean, do you have anything else, Nick?
No, I just am honored and really grateful that you guys had me on the show.
Thanks,
I'm
Nick.
a huge fan of the show. If this is anyone's first time listening, the shows are worth a re-listen. I actually listened to your guys's how travel agents plan their travel
Thank you.
multiple times.
Thank
And I'm
you.
not just saying that.
Wow.
Thanks.
We actually incorporated a few things that you guys suggested. One of them being getting a white hard case suitcase.
Wow.
One of the best decisions ever. And my wife travels a lot.
Yeah.
When we were dating, she traveled 25 weeks out of the year, and
good for her.
Yeah. And she loved the tips that you guys had there. So
Thrilled to hear it.
Thank you. That means
thank
a lot.
you guys. Yeah.
It means a lot. Yeah. But thank you guys for listening. I think that's really it. If you are interested in Italy and you need any help with it, we are travel agents. Shameless plug. You can reach out to us at kima.travel. That's our website. It's going to be linked in the description. So if you need some help with Italy, feel free to reach out to us. If anything, we can bend your ear about some things and see if we might be a good fit for you. But until next episode, Brian, do you have anything else for our listeners?
Ciao, buongiorno, grazie mille.
We're the travel agents, that's the end of our show. Make sure to